and welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. So happy to welcome Jane Verant and Lynn Ricker. They're with Senior Care Advisors. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I think we have a senior or two tuning in this morning, and I'm wondering what all information we can pack into a half hour here, but we're going to do our best. First of all, let's find out a little more about Senior Care Advisors. Tell me a little bit how you got started, how you two started working together on this. You found a need and filled it. How did that happen?
Well, Lynn and I worked together for many years at Job and Family Services, both as caseworkers in the nursing home department. And when we were getting ready to retire, we had discussed about opening our own business because of the need that is there for people to realize and figure out what do they have to do when or if nursing home or Medicaid comes into play. And as far as caseworkers, we were limited as far as what we were able to tell people what they could do as far as their assets and things like that. So after we retired, we got together and Lynn picked the name Senior Care Advisors, which I thought was very great. Mm-hmm. And we just started going out and visiting nursing homes, getting our name out there, doing talks, and that's kind of how it came about. And we just grown and involved over the years with word of mouth through people, other clients that we've worked with, nursing homes, different attorneys that we work with to promote or help people figure out how are they going to qualify for Medicaid. Can they qualify for Medicaid? What kind of questions do they have? Because it's very confusing, all the different rules and regulations that come into play.
But your hands were no longer tied because you were no longer with your same positions with Job and Family Services. So in this new endeavor, now, sky's the limit. You can let everybody know what their options are.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things that we do is try to make sure that we let the people know that you can go to Job and Family Services and get this service without having an outside involvement. You can go to an attorney. We are very careful not to overstep our boundaries as far as giving legal advice. We do not do that. If we feel that a client needs legal advice, we will refer them to an attorney, different ones that we work with or other ones in the area, specifying that they really need to see an elder law attorney because they know the Medicaid rules and regulations that maybe your family attorney would not know. So we try to be very careful not to step on anyone's toes. We are a convenience for people. We've found that while working there that people would come in with bags of papers, not knowing what to bring, what they needed to prove, how they needed to prove it. So we guide them down that path of making sure they don't have to hire us to do this. We can guide them on what they need to take to Job and Family Services to end some of the confusion.
You're talking about something that we probably ought to think about way before we need it.
Absolutely.
But that's not when it's on your mind. When you're young, healthy, doing your job, who is thinking about what am I going to do when I'm a senior and I suddenly need care?
It usually shows up at crisis time.
Right.
When someone has been injured or they're in the hospital and they need rehab or they need to be permanently in a nursing facility and all of a sudden they don't know what to do. They've run out of money or there isn't enough money. Nursing homes are very, very expensive. If you pay privately, it's approximately $90,000 a year to be in a nursing facility for a year. So what we try to do is make people understand that this isn't an embarrassment for you. It's not anything that most of us could handle. You need that help, and that's where the Medicaid comes into play. That's where we help you, guide you, get you tunneled in the right direction as far as that's concerned. A lot of times we run into family members that they don't know what mom and dad had.
Sure.
Mom and dad didn't share that information. So it's a lot of untangling a lot of times.
A lot of times, the children are in the dark, as far as, like Lynn said, what their parents have. And most of the calls that we do get are from people that they need something like yesterday. That they weren't prepared. They didn't know that this was going to be an issue. And like Lynn said as well, too, as far as, we are not financial planners. We can't tell people how to okay, I want to get an annuity, I want to do this. We do not do any of that because we're not licensed to do that.
Okay, this isn't about investments or anything like that.
It is not.
Because most seniors are thinking also in terms of what legacy will I leave to my children.
Exactly.
You don't want them just saddled with your health care.
Right.
And what you're going to be doing is living out your years.
Right.
We want to be productive as long as we can, and we want to be
Absolutely.
able to leave something behind for them.
Yeah.
That's right.
I see that you got started in 2008. That
We
was the year
did.
that everything tanked. So I'm guessing, though, your particular service thrived regardless, yes?
Yes, it did, because regardless of whether the real estate tanked or your stocks or your investments tanked, people were still going into nursing homes, and now they were in more of a need probably for Medicaid than before because they've lost a lot in their investments.
What I was going to say, the other thing too, as far as people being in a nursing home, even if someone does have money, that money is not going to last. That's the problem. You think, oh, I've got, $100,000, but if a nursing home costs $90,000 a year on average, your money is not going to last. Where I would say probably within most nursing homes, probably 75 to 80% of people in nursing homes are on Medicaid. Maybe there's 20% private pay and Medicare paying. But for the most part, because that's, if you're there for any length of time, all your money is going to be spent, unfortunately. So
We are a group of very healthy baby boomers. People are waiting until they're much older to move into a nursing home as opposed to years ago. Is that why? Are you seeing maybe more business for yourselves, but also people kind of holding off and going into a nursing home just for that very reason? You don't want all your money to be gone in a year or two.
Right. And a lot of people do try to keep their family member at home as long as they possibly can. And it's not just to preserve the money as much as it is. People have become more aware of mom, dad, let's move them in here, let's try to help them. Or we find a lot of children are moving into mom or dad's home to take care of them.
Interesting.
So that's changed a lot. It didn't used to be that way. The nursing home was almost the next step.
The next thing.
Right. Right.
Well, there are too, and this was probably not the norm many years ago too. There are a lot of assisted living facilities
Yes.
where someone can end up being in assisted living for the rest of their life, which is more like you're independent, and Medicaid does help pay for assisted living as long as you qualify. So that's always a good thing too.
It seems too people are wanting to stay in their homes just because that's their familiar, safe
Exactly.
home base.
Everybody wants to stay. Nobody wants to go into a nursing
Sure.
home.
Except my mother. She treated it like it was her sorority house. And it was the next thing. She was
Well,
hilariously
we
having
do-
so much fun.
Yeah, we do see some people that
They
they're-
thrive.
they do.
Oh,
They thrive
she did.
because they didn't have the social environment at home. They didn't have any kind of connection other than with the TV. Or when their children
Yes.
came over. So sometimes when people go in and there's other people their age and they have activities and many things to do, it's something that they really, enjoy and thrive at.
Well, I know she was the exception, not the rule. You have to work at staying informed because the rules change regularly, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's why we can trust you ladies, because you've got such a solid background in it. But I'm sure professional development is part of your regular day.
One of the things that we find is that the rules can change on us overnight. It seems like we will be working on a case, and trust me, we do not know everything. We will run up against a problem. Almost every time we deal with someone, there might be a question, something we want to follow up on and check on. And we have, like Jane said, we have several attorneys that we work with that are elder law attorneys. And they are very up on these rules also. And fortunately, we can make a phone call and say, have you heard about this? Is this something new? And they will tell us yes or no. A lot of times, the people we deal with will say to us, well, my neighbor told me. Or these people knew that this happened down the road 6 families ago. And it may not be true at all, but we have to check on that just because they may have heard something that changed that we have to follow up on.
Wow.
So we always, if we get that question mark, we will make sure that we call and talk to someone who can let us know, yes, this is a rule change, or no, it is not. So,
Trying to circle back to children knowing what their parents have done. Often parents forget. There'd be like, you've got a home, you've got maybe a car or two, you've got some retirement funds, maybe some other investments and so forth, and where do you find everything that's been squirreled away here and there? How do you do that?
It's very difficult. I mean, it's funny because I can just remember different houses we went to, because that's one of our things that we do feature. When someone calls and they want a consultation, we go to them. We work out of our homes, and people really enjoy that because, number one, they feel more comfortable. They might be more forthcoming. And also, all the documents that we might need to look at are usually there.
Somewhere.
So, yeah. And
right.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so it does work out good. But it's funny, like I said, we have gone to houses where people think, oh, I have $20,000. And we probe the questions. You have this, you have that. And then it's like, before you know it, oh, I had over $100,000.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Like, phew, thank goodness.
Yeah. And the kids didn't know either.
Sure.
So we just try to prompt the questions, between either the husband, wife, and or children, and try to get to the bottom of as much as we can. So that seems to work out.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One of the things that people are really surprised about a lot of times is the life insurance. They may have several policies there that are life insurance policies that some of them may still be good, some may not. So we will help them get to the bottom of that too, because a lot of times those policies are so old that they've either expired because they were a term policy, or they're worth a whole lot more than you think they are because they've been laying in that drawer all this time and no one's followed up or checked to see what the value might be. And that is an asset that Medicaid looks at.
I have a friend, and this certainly is a very rare thing, I understand, but this happened to them. Recently lost a parent, had no idea when all was said and done, they inherited $2 million.
Oh, my.
Now, would that happen to all of us? That would be just so lovely. But
Right.
But that came as a complete shock to them, and
Sure.
I think it would have been a complete shock to the
most
to the
people.
parent as well.
Yes.
The parent passing away had no idea that was happening. But so how important is it for us to do sort of an assessment of all of our assets, et cetera? How important is that?
If you are at all connected to your children or have something, you really need to let your children know what you have. It's a very rare occasion that someone is planning on going into a nursing facility.
Right.
This happens quickly.
Yeah.
It happens in an emergency situation. So it's really good that your children would know, look, these things are in a safety deposit box. They're in the safe. They're in this drawer in the house. They don't necessarily have to know what you have as much as where you have it so that they can get it when the time comes that they need to divulge what they have if Medicaid comes into play.
So if you've got a lockbox tucked away somewhere, or a file cabinet even,
Right.
or a safety deposit box, just let them know those things.
Yes.
You recommend a 5-year look back.
There is a 5-year look back for Medicaid eligibility. They will look back 5 years to see if there was any transfers of property or assets, any sales, or any gifting. Gifting is not allowed for Medicaid eligibility. If you gift, it's an improper transfer of your assets, and if you've done it within the last 5 years, there's a restricted period that gets applied to the person, the client.
Okay.
the Medicaid client.
We're going to need to dig more into this. But first we need to take a short break. So we're visiting with Jane Verant and Lynn Ricker from Senior Care Advisors, and we'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.